Welcome back to Predicting the NFL. Mickey G, and we have finished the regular season. That is correct. So now it's time for the playoffs. But first, we must recap Week 17. Well, for the regular season, my overall record was 157-99. So I didn't get 100 losses. Look at that. Now, as I said before, not as good as last year, I believe. But it's not that bad, you know? I'm okay with that. This is a difficult year to predict. There's a lot of crazy things happen, you know? So, stuff and things. So I went 12-4. And so that was one of my better weeks. So it was a good way to end it up. But I was 0-3 in the special games. And since I only got 4 wrong, that means only one game besides the special games I got wrong. And that game was Panthers-Saints. Yeah. Also poorly done. They've rested most of their starters, so I should have just known to pick the Panthers to win. But hey. Anyway, so special games, the Browns and Ravens. Now, this is a very dumb game. And you know what another game that they should have won that they didn't? The Raiders. The Raiders game. Yeah, the game that also, when there was, a clutch like third or fourth down or whatever, that wasn't converted or was converted, I forget which way it was, and the Browns lost because of it. I don't know, man. Maybe something's rigged. So, that was wrong. So that moves the upset for the finality to 9-8. Moving on to the crap fest, I picked the Packers because they were in Lambeau, but apparently Aaron Rodgers had a concussion. So the Lions won 31-0. But we did get to have Pat McAfee call this game, and the kicker for the Lions got a touchdown pass. So we have some exciting sound bits from that. So just look that up. I'd have it in here, but it'd probably get more copyright than I usually do.
Well, that'll bring on Matt Prater for a 20.
Touchdown!
Trick play.
Let's
Wide
go!
open. Levine Toilolo.
Let's go!
Prater with a touchdown pass.
Matt Prater has the NFL's longest field goal. He's a man who's a legend. He's kicked long balls, he's kicked game winners, and here in Lambeau in December gives a cadence with the leg lift like Peyton Manning, no laces, and delivers a dime in the corner of the end zone for a 13, about to be 14-0 lead in Green Bay, Wisconsin. What a beautiful moment for the Browns. Adjust himself, calculate it, nice short step like Peyton Manning says on the leadoff, and deliver a dime in the corner of the end zone. And that was magical for the Browns.
And guess what? Now he gets to try for the extra point. You've mentioned the Jack Rabbits. We got a jack of all trades.
I'll tell you what, I almost just had a heart attack up here. That was awesome.
And then which moved that to 10-7 for the Crap Fest. And then finally the game of the week, on which I picked the Vikings to win because, that way they make the playoffs and such. And they're at home and all these other kinds of things. And then Kirk let me down. Kirk did not do what he needed to do. No, he did not. He lost that game, and the Bears, they played their hearts out, boys. So that's all for the special games, and that moves the game of the week to 9-8. So I stayed above 500 in all of them, which is I'm proud of. That's okay with. I'm okay with that. Once again, very difficult games. Usually the game of the week, it's difficult. Crap Fest is always too trash and no one cares about. The upset's always difficult to pick because they're not supposed to win. So those kind of things put together in a mashed up bowl. Then we have the Bills and the Dolphins, and the Bills won significantly. Ryan Tannehill played horribly, and probably his last game as a Dolphin. And Kyle Williams is a beast, and he's playing his final game as a Bill after 13 seasons. So good for him. The Chiefs blew out the Raiders. They actually played some defense. The Patriots annihilated the Jets. They didn't do their usual try to hang on thing. The Steelers beat the Bengals, but not enough, and they do not make the playoffs. The Texans beat the Jaguars, and not much of a surprise. But also, we have some stupid running backs on our team. Need to be taught some lessons. Yep. The Colts beat the Titans in probably the most exciting game of the year because it came down to the wire. Blamed the plane as the quarterback for the Titans, which didn't quite help much. But Andrew Luck, yes, able to pull out the victory and move on to the playoffs. The Chargers beat the Broncos, and not a surprise at all. The Falcons and Buccaneers went down to the wire, but Falcons able to come out with the win. So good job there. And then the Cowboys almost lost to the Giants after keeping Zeke out of the game to rest him for the playoffs, but they were able to get the victory and keep their record pretty decent. The Eagles annihilated the Redskins so that they could get their playoff spot. I already mentioned the Panthers' annihilation of the Saints, and then there was the Rams, who had a very high-scoring game against the 49ers for whatever reason, and the Seahawks, who almost lost to the Cardinals because, it's fun to almost lose to bad teams and then annihilate the good teams. So it makes lots of sense and makes for exciting games. So that is really all we have for the recap. So let's move into the predictions. We have the Chargers at Baltimore. And I hate that this is the matchup we're getting because I feel like these are the two teams in the AFC that have the best chance of probably going all the way. You see, because out of the 6 teams, which are the Chargers, Ravens, Texans, Colts, Patriots, and Chiefs, the Chiefs are going to end up going full read and probably losing next week because that's what they do. The Patriots have had the worst team they've had in a while and don't really deserve that first round bye, but the rest of the divisions are so close that they actually lose their division games sometimes, which makes for, close divisions, makes them have more losses, which makes the Patriots look a lot better than they are by getting a first round bye because their division sucks. So yeah. And so those two teams, I will be very surprised if they even make the Super Bowl. I am not expecting them to be even close. The 4 bottom teams are the best teams. The Chargers, they started out slow as usual, and then they ended up with like a 12-4 season, which was amazing. And they have a good offense. Their defense has played a lot better as the season has gone on. That is for sure. And they look mighty fine. You know what I mean? They're looking really great. I feel like they have a very legitimate chance of making the Super Bowl. They have Phil Rivers, who's a veteran quarterback. He's been playing the playoffs before. Granted, hasn't much success in the playoffs, but he is still a good quarterback, and this might finally be his year. They have Melvin Gordon, the stud. Lots of receivers. The only problem really on offense that they have is tight end Antonio Gates, who's good, but he's very old. And then you have, the defense is playing well. It's a lot better. The defense secondary is pretty good, such like that. But they're playing the Ravens, and the Ravens, also one of the best defenses of the league, if not the best. Maybe the Bears have that title over top of them, but they are definitely one of the best defenses in the league this year. And Lamar Jackson has brought new life to their offense. He's been running all over the place, throwing decently well. Not the best, but decently well. They have lots of tight ends they can throw to. They may not be the best either, but they're not bad. They have receivers that can catch. They have running backs that can take the carries. They can share around and stuff like that. So I mean, the reason the Ravens have such a good chance is because no one knows what to do with Lamar Jackson, and they have a really strong defense, and defenses win championships. The reason the Chargers have such a good chance is because they have a great offense and defense that I think is good enough to make it all the way. If they can stop Lamar Jackson, then I feel like they can definitely do that. And since playing him already this season, it's going to be hard for the Ravens to beat them twice, especially of how good of a team both teams are. It's going to be a great game. I'm looking very much forward to this. I will probably actually watch this game, unless I have other plans, which I hope I don't. And so this game is probably going to be the best game this week. But no game of the week, no Crab Fest, none of that stuff. Well, Crab Fest wouldn't really make sense. Upset, that just means you're picking the lower seed. Game of the week. They're all should be game of the weeks. You know what I mean? So I'm not doing any of those. But I am going to go with the Chargers because I can't see the Ravens beating them twice in 1 year. I was really hoping that this would be the AFC Championship because I feel like these might be the best 2 teams to go to the Super Bowl and win it. The second game for the AFC is the Colts at Texans. And this is another exciting game, another good game because the Colts are a very good team. Andrew Luck should be the comeback player of the year. If he's not, then something's stupid. Okay, he's had a great season. He's led his team to the playoffs after being horrible last year. Okay, granted, he didn't really play, but that's besides the point. So great team, brought it back. They started out real slow, and then they won their last 9 out of 10 games, which is insane. So more power to you, buddy. And so great season there. And they have the running back Marlon Mack's been playing fantastically. You know, they have the wide receivers, they have the tight end. Their defense has played phenomenally for the most part, and so they just are all around a good team that has a very good chance. But they're playing the Texans in the first round. Texans have Deshaun Watson, great quarterback, has done well this year. They always make it close though. That's definitely true, except for against the Jaguars or whatever. But Texans have a great defense. They have a great front four. They have good linebackers, good defensive backs, like all over. Both of these teams are very similar, I feel. They have a strong quarterback with pretty good offensive weapons that they can throw to and stuff like that. And then a defense that does its job, kind of a thing. But I feel like the Texans, they have to win this game here. They're the higher seed. They need to prove it. They've won the division for a reason. And so since they won the division for a reason, I feel like they're going to win this game and they're going to move on to the next round. For the NFC, we have the Seahawks at Cowboys. Now, and then we have the Eagles at the Bears. Now, starting off with the Seahawks at Cowboys, I'd like to point out the fact that I feel like for the wild card games, the NFC is fairly easy. Okay, if we look at all 6 teams: Seahawks, Cowboys, Eagles, Bears, Saints, and Rams. The Rams have had some close calls with some bad teams. They've had some struggles throughout the year. They have a quarterback in Jared Goff who I don't think is good enough to win a Super Bowl. That kind of worries me a lot. And plus, since the Saints have the Superdome for the entirety of the playoffs, it's going to be hard to beat them in the Superdome, as I've mentioned lots of times. So there's not many quarterbacks that have the ability to go into such a hostile place as Superdome and come out with a win. So it's going to be a very difficult thing for all of these teams to do if they face the Saints, let alone beat them. So I feel like the Rams don't have the best chance in this conference. Then there's the Saints. Obviously, they have home field advantage for the entirety of the playoffs, so that's a great look for them with their pretty complete team, except for the defense is a little lacking. Every once in a while, their offense just disappears. Then we have the Seahawks, who have made a great job, and if it wasn't for the Rams, they'd easily have won the division, and they would have been able to make the playoffs, the top seed. They probably would have given the Saints a run for their money if it wasn't for how difficult their schedule was this year. But yeah, the Seahawks, they did a great job this year. Russell Wilson was able to keep his team ahead no matter what. Once again, they've had a few scares with some of the worst teams in the league, but I feel like they have to push through this year if they want to win. And since the Cowboys, they always have had trouble in the playoffs. The last time they made the playoffs, when they had the best record in the NFL, they lost the first game they played. And I feel like that is going to happen again because the Seahawks, Russell Wilson himself might have the best chance of beating the Saints in the Superdome. So if he can win here, I feel like he might be the one to take down the Saints if he plays them. And so I have to go with the Seahawks here because I have a feeling that they could go really far in the playoffs this year. But moving on to the Eagles and Bears. The Eagles barely sneaked into the playoffs. If the Vikings had either made the field goal against the Packers and not tied that game, they're in the playoffs. If they hadn't lost to the Bills at home, then they're in the playoffs. And those are 2 big key games, 2 big key mistakes that are just mind-blowing to me in and of itself, especially considering how bad the Packers ended up being. And so with all the talent they had, they should have made it in. And the Eagles just may have been on the string of their teeth, almost lost the division if it wasn't for all the injuries that happened to the Redskins. But the Eagles here, not liking their chances. Bears, on the other hand, the only really problem I have with the Bears team is their quarterback. Mitch Trubisky is a young quarterback, and he hasn't shown that he is a star quarterback that can lead his team in the playoffs. Granted, he hasn't been there before, and this is only his 2nd or 3rd year. But an important thing to do, it's very hard to go into the playoffs as a young quarterback and win out. However, he does have one of the best defenses in the league. Once again, like I said, maybe the best. Either them or the Ravens, I would say. And so to go in there, and if the defense can hold him up and keep him alive, then they could also go very far in this playoff. So I feel like the Bears and Seahawks and Saints probably the ones with the best chance, and all 3 teams to look at. So I'm definitely going to go with the Bears here, beating the Eagles. How I love an underdog story. They did it last year or whatever, and all that jazz. I'm very surprised they made the playoffs in the first place. The NFC was significantly weaker than they had been the previous few years. While the AFC did the opposite, where they had usually been weaker of the few, and the teams you always expect made it. This year, it was the opposite, which I kind of liked, but didn't help because the Jaguars were bad because of their offensive line. But yeah, I'm definitely going to go with the Bears here, and that's really all. This is a lot longer than I expected to be. I talked a lot about the teams individually in the playoffs, and so thank you for watching. Thanks for a great regular season, and as always, adios.